The Sudanese Military Council and Forces for Freedom and Change signed a hard-won constitutional declaration paving the way for a transition to civilian rule after more than 8 months of demonstration and violence. The military overthrew President Omar Hassan al-Bashir in April after months of mass protests against his 3 decades authoritarian rule. Protesters who have demanded a rapid transition to civilian rule have been locked in tense negotiation with the military for weeks while holding mass demonstration. Accordingly, Sudanese Military Council and the main opposition coalition have made a peace accord to usher in a new period of transitional government in Sudan. Under the agreement signed at a ceremony in the capital Khartoum, a joint civilian military ruling body would oversee the formation of a civilian government and parliament to govern for a 3-year transition period. The declaration was a result of fraught negotiation between the leaders of mass protest which erupted last December against the 3 decades long-serving President Omar Hassan al-Bashir and the generals who ousted him in April. The mediation of the Sudanese peace accord was mainly carried out by the African Union and Ethiopia. Different international media outlets have reported the role of Ethiopia in mediating the military council and protest to bring peace in the Sudanese horizon. For instance, the Telegram reported that Sudanese military and protest reached full agreement on transitional government after months of negotiation brokered the African Union and neighboring Ethiopia. The Telegram further depicted that the Sudanese peace accord became reality after tiresome involvement of the African Union and Ethiopia. The role of Ethiopia to overcome the Sudanese turmoil and unrest that scored 8 consecutive months was immense. Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed has been working closely to mediate the 2 parties by assigning a special envoy to Sudan, Ambassador Mohammed Dril. OBN talked to the special envoy to Sudan, Ambassador Mohammed Dril, spokesperson of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, Nabir Getachew, and extraordinary plenipotentiary to the United Arab Emirates, Ambassador Suleiman Dadafo, regarding the role of Ethiopia in the Sudanese peace accord. The role of Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed was very crucial and his visit was timely and very decisive, said the special envoy to Sudan, Ambassador Mohammed Dril.
Ethiopia has been very active in the peace agreements between various partners and parties in the region. What makes different the engagement of Ethiopia in the case of the Sudan is that the Sudan is not only a neighboring country, but it is a country with which our destiny is interconnected. There is a long historical connection between the 2 countries. These 2 countries also represent an ancient African civilization in this part of the world. So all these things put together make Ethiopia's role very important, timely, and decisive at the same time. The engagement of the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, particularly the timely visit at a very crucial time when the Sudanese parties were far apart, tremendously far apart, and the suspicion, the baggage of misunderstanding was high. There was also the civil disobedience. The future was bleak, I should say. That engagement was very timely and important at the same time. So it emanates from a vision that is based on considering the pain of the Sudanese people as our own pain, the suffering of the Sudanese people as our own suffering. And I think this idea of getting engaged in the problems of the region is not new to Ethiopia. Going back to the issues of Somalia, of South Sudan, and now the Sudan, of course, is very important for the region, not only for the Sudanese people at the same time.
Very good, Mr. The special envoy added that the regional role of Ethiopia was very crucial because of Ethiopia's historic role in solving conflict in Africa and in the region.
Regional role of Ethiopia is very important because Ethiopia, with its huge population, with its historic role in being engaged in solving conflicts in Africa and in the region, because when you look at Emperor Haile Selassie in 1972, he was engaged in the conflict between South Sudan and the Sudan at that time. So it has this deep-rooted experience of solving or being engaged in solving the problems of our region with our neighbors. And I understand the problems of this region are immense. This region has been stigmatized and stereotyped as a region where you have drought, famine, conflict. It is high time that we go out of that we change this status quo, that we change the understanding of others towards our region. And this could come from a genuine policy of being people-oriented, of working with the people, of raising the issues that are very important for the people. Not only raising them in terms of sloganeering, but in terms of being engaged in solving these problems. The Ethio-Eritrean question has been at limbo for decades. Now we're witnessing a new era, a new spirit, and I hope that that continues at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you.
The special envoy Ambassador Mohammed Drill had to say the following about the main content of the constitutional declaration of Sudanese peace agreement.
The Sudanese parties have agreed on two very important issues. The first thing is the political declaration, which is a sort of declaration of principles, and it embodies the negotiating principles brought by the African Union and Ethiopia to engage the parties to come to the table of negotiations. Beyond that, there is the declaration, the constitutional declaration, which embodies how responsibilities and roles of governance are to be undertaken in the future, in the coming 3 years. And this is a very important document that is a transitional document that could be, I should say, a roadmap for the Sudan to solve its problems by its own leadership.
A spokesperson of Ministry of Foreign Affairs Nabia Getachew said that the just-ended Ethiopian year was the limelight of Ethiopian diplomacy.
It has been really the limelight of Ethiopian diplomacy this year, I would say, because Ethiopia's foreign policy is focused in bringing about peace and stability, not only with its neighbors, but the entire Horn of Africa region. So in terms of that, I would say that the diplomatic activities that Ethiopia's participation to bring about reconciliation and agreement with the Sudanese parties has been a major breakthrough and an important aspect of our foreign policy. You can imagine it was in June when our Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed visited Khartoum and sat with all the contending parties, and we got the approval and the acceptance of all the parties to take Ethiopia as their mediator. You know, that's the kind of trust they have. So following that, of course, the Prime Minister has assigned his special envoy, His Excellency Ambassador Mohammed Drill, and also our ambassador there in Khartoum, His Excellency Ambassador Shiferra, was also part of this process. And through all this, the outcome is really fascinating. The other aspect of this is Ethiopia in
Nabiyat further articulated that Ethiopian embassy in Khartoum, Sudan, and the special envoy Ambassador Mohammed Drill did a worthwhile task in the mediation sentiment.
that executes Ethiopia's foreign policy has played a key role in this whole process. We have an embassy in Khartoum. We have, our special envoy was also part of this. And as a ministry, when we implement our foreign policy, giving high priority to neighboring countries to bring about peace, stability, and prosperity to the entire region. Of course, it has been one of our primary tasks to see through this, to see success.
An extraordinary plenipotentiary Ambassador Suleiman Dadafo noted that Prime Minister Abiy prioritized peace both in the country and overseas.
The vision of Prime Minister Abiy is a vision of peace, prosperity, and harmony in the region. Yes, it is true, he is the one who brought to the end the long-standing issue between Ethiopia and Eritrea. The situation between Ethiopia and Eritrea in no war and no peace was very difficult for Ethiopia, both for Ethiopia and for Eritrea, and for the whole region. Many efforts have been done. Even the superpowers have involved in the situation, and they couldn't succeed. And the emergence of Prime Minister Abiy as a leader of Ethiopia has brought the issue to its end. This is a big surprise to the international community itself, not only to Ethiopian peoples and the Eritrean peoples. Secondly, he has successfully brokered between the parties, warring parties of Sudan. He is also contributing a lot and improving the situation in South Sudan. He has also done a lot to narrow the difference between Somalia and Kenya. And the situation is now under process. So he is doing a lot. He is even doing many efforts beyond the region. So this shows that his vision is a vision of peace, stability, prosperity, and development.
Ambassador Suleiman underscored that hadn't been for Dr. Abiy, the agreement would have been unsuccessful.
The role of Ethiopia was very crucial. Hadn't it been Ethiopia that involved in the situation that occurred in Sudan, I could be afraid that the issue could have gone out of hands. As I remember, many actors have involved before the intervention of Ethiopia, and those efforts have not succeeded, and that Ethiopia honestly and sincerely involved with tangible benefits for all Sudanese parties. So Ethiopia succeeded, especially with the very important role of the leadership of Prime Minister Abiy.
On that specific day after the agreement made, Dr. Abiy Ahmed went to the podium to make speech, and this was the reaction of the people.
مذ حط طائره الميمون بمطار الخرطوم بزيه الأبيض وبأناقته الزاهدة تفاءل شعبنا بمقدم رسول السلام رئيس وزراء أثيوبيا أبي أحمد.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. شكرا. Your Excellency, General Abdel Fattah Burhan, Excellencies, Heads of States and Governments, Your Excellency, Musa Faki, Chairperson of African Union, brothers and sisters of Sudan, it is with great honor that I stand here before you, bearing witness to this momentous day which marks the birth of a new era for this great nation. We are gathered here in celebration of the people of Sudan who have sacrificed greatly to guarantee their freedom.